Coming to you live from the Business RadioX studio, it's Franchise Marketing Radio. Ready to revolutionize your franchise with AI? Franchise Now empowers franchises with advanced AI solutions, automatic processes, and enhanced marketing strategies. From personalized customer interactions to predictive analytics, we help you harness AI to drive growth and efficiency. Transform your franchise with the power of AI. Visit Franchise Now to learn more and take your business into the future. Now, here's your host.
Welcome back, everybody, to Franchise Marketing Radio, where we spotlight the most dynamic minds in franchising, leaders who are building brands, growing communities, and reshaping the future of business ownership. On today's episode is no different. I have with me Kenny Larson. He's the CEO of Slumberland. And I also have with me the brand's VP of Franchise Development, Josh Priniski. So welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Hey, good to be here.
Thank you.
So before we dive in, I always like to kind of tee things up for the audience so they really understand you. And we do have an audience across the country. And I know maybe your brand isn't as well known in certain places, but certainly I know it is in certain states. So it'd be good to kind of share with the audience a little bit about the brand. And Kenny, it's been part of your life, right? It was started by, I believe, your father. So you could maybe tell us that the story, how this has developed. I know the franchising started much later than the original business. And that, I think, was 2008. You'll correct me to get that right. But could you give us a little background on how this whole thing started and where this brand is today?
Yeah, super interesting story. It started in 1967. I think at that time, it probably was the first mattress specialty store. So my dad and a couple other guys had a idea to do things a little bit differently. And so that we've made it, we're now into our 58th year, I think is really, really cool. And obviously being my dad, I was really young at the time, but don't know life without Slumberland. Through the years, I would say we've been very entrepreneurial, started adding a couple of key categories. The first one was sleep sofas. Early on, felt that brand names were really important. So coming out of the mattress business, we learned that lesson early. And Ken wanted to not just add recliners, it had to be Lazy Boy. And so we added Lazy Boy to the mix. There was probably a leap of faith on their part to say, what, we're going to put our chairs in a mattress store, which there weren't a lot of them at that time, but they did it. And, you know, one of the things that it speaks to, Rob, is we're still with Lazy Boy today. We're their largest customer. So we have done since that time over $1 billion worth of Lazy Boy. And we continue to value that relationship along with some of the early ones like Sealy that has been there from the beginning. You mentioned the franchising piece. Actually, early on, we started franchising in the mid-'70s. So Ken saw it as an opportunity to grow faster than he could otherwise. And as you know, at mid-'70s, franchising was still relatively new as a concept and has built that out. And, you know, real testament is we still have a few of our original franchisees still with us after changing store size, concept, and all of that over the years. Today, we're more of a full-line furniture store. And if you walked into one of the stores, it would look like more of a furniture store with a strong emphasis on mattresses. But that's still our key category, our heritage. You mentioned the footprint. We're in 12 states, based here in Minneapolis, St. Paul, but we go as far west as Billings, Montana, down to Wichita, Kansas, and then up to Benton Harbor, Michigan, and the 12 states in between that are where we've got our footprint today.
I love it. That's America right there. That's beautiful. So, and I know, like, you covered a lot of ground in that answer. And I know I want to get in a little bit about the heart behind the brand, right? So you did mention franchising, and I was way off. I thought it started later on, but it started way back in the 70s. And that was like the beginning of like really formulating what is a franchise supposed to be structured as and how to do it right and make sure that, and that's why I love franchising, because it is built for, you know, everybody to kind of, you know, get the most out of the relationship. And, you know, so I think prior to that, it probably didn't have as much structure, but yeah, you've seen it all then. You've seen it since the beginning. So, but before I dive into the community aspects and the heart of your brand, I want to understand a little bit about the decision to franchise. Like, what was that about you and your dad and your family? Because there's that connection. Not only did you build an incredible company, right, and a brand, and you mentioned things like like Lazy Boy being with you since the beginning, being their best customer. And I mean, that does say a lot to be anyone's biggest customer and for that long. So from that side of things, you guys have clearly have a certain way to run a business. But what was it about the franchising side where you're really extending that to other people to become part of this family? How is it in your dad's mind and your vision of doing that? Like that's early on too, like you talking about being an early adopter. So tell me more about the thought behind becoming a franchise and how that's impacted the brand.
Yeah, I think, Ken has always had a mind towards growth, mind towards continuing to ask the question of what's next. I think when we first began franchising, and Rob, I was not part of those early conversations because I think I was 10 years old. But I think he really saw it as an opportunity that had something special with this concept of mattress specialty store and wanted to take it further out. So I know at the beginning, a large part of it was growth. I do know one of the things that was really important to Ken was the values of the company, which is everything from certainly honesty and integrity, treating people with love, dignity, and respect. And one of the key questions we had to answer with that is how do we continue to, if that's important to the brand, how do we continue to extend that with franchisees coming in? So there was a big part of at the beginning, making sure we were partnering with the right people that weren't not only going to be good store operators, that was a for sure, but also we're going to be aligned with those values in the way that we did it. So I think early on with Ken recognizing that those values are still in place today and the way that we really try to approach the business. So I think just foundationally, you obviously need to have a business concept that works. You need to be able to support it. But I think you also need to have the values associated with that to be able to continue to grow into the future.
I love what you said because, I think the number one piece of advice, and I don't specifically work in the franchising of businesses, but I have a lot of friends that work in that side of it where they help a business owner like your dad way back then, nowadays, well, then he was a pioneer, but like now it's hey, here's how you do it. Here's the pathway to follow. And one of the main pieces of advice that is always given to an emerging brand and a visionary or an owner or a founder is you've got to take what's in your heart and somehow get that over to the franchise owner. And it has to be aligned. And if it's not aligned, that is one of the biggest reasons franchisors can't get past, say, 10 units, right? Or just don't get off the ground and don't, hit that level of success that you guys have hit. And just because of bringing people in that are aligned. Just knowing that he thought that way originally is pretty profound because that is one of the main pieces of advice. We have to, don't just go for that first person or someone who's ready to make the investment, right? You really have to think about that. So that's brilliant.
And I think with that, I'd love to tell you we were perfect throughout the years in identifying and making sure that was in place. There are times that hasn't been the case, but we continue to say that this is important who we are, and some of the transitions that have taken place have been because of that. There just wasn't the alignment.
Yeah, you got to, it's a pruning in the tree. It does happen. Things change too.
Yep.
And it's just having that thought process as a leader. I appreciate that. That's why I love the industry. It usually works pretty well because of those reasons. So anyway, let's dive into, being a franchisee. We're going to talk more about the business side, but I really think the heart for a lot of brands that I talk to is these business owners really become connected to their communities. They become leaders. And it's one of the fulfilling things about it is that, if you're running a sizable business like your operations and you're in the community, there's impact there, right? And obviously being able to be proactive and structure some ideas, not only for your franchisees to think about, but just in general, just being a good business leader. But you do have some programs that you work with them on. And one of them, I think, is 40 Winks, right? And I wanted to see, Josh, if you could share more about that, but more than just the program itself, what's behind that? And how do you try to use those types of programs and others so that the franchisees, the owners there in those markets can really connect with not only consumers in the market, but other businesses and make an impact?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll let Kenny speak a little bit more to the history of how 40 Winks got started and kind of the family enterprise behind that. But what I'll say is on the franchise side, we really do from the very beginning make this part of our message, part of what we do overall as we talk to franchisees that are coming into the system, and then make it part of our daily speak every day, right? And so as we're talking about giving to the community and connecting with the community, and that's part of the beauty of franchising, right? Is that you have at Slumberland, right? We've got owner operators living in the communities, and so you work where you live and you make connections, and being part of the community becomes just incredibly important. And so to have resources like 40 Winks as a foundation to sort of lean on and say, this is something we can stand for, to be able to give beds to kids and to help in the community in the area that's needed most. It's incredibly impactful. But again, I'll let Kenny speak a little bit more to the history of that.
Yeah, I would say Rob mentioned the values at the beginning. One of them is that we do give back to the community. We have an aggressive goal every year that it's 10% of our profits go back to communities. And that's something that has been in place from the beginning. One of the things that we recognized is that there's a tremendous amount of need with too many kids sleeping on the floor. It ties to our key categories. So we set up a foundation called 40 Winks. The sole purpose is to give mattresses through different charities to kids that are sleeping on the floor. And we want to make sure that that's happening not only in the corporate markets, but also give the opportunity to make that happen in the franchise markets too. So the Larson family takes care of all admin expenses, everything associated with that foundation. So 100% of the dollars that get donated to this foundation go to a mattress, so the kids, we can leverage that as much as we can. To Josh's point, to Josh's point on the franchise piece, one of the things that I should have said at the beginning, we do have corporate stores and we do have franchise stores. It's about 55 corporate, 70 franchise, round numbers. And we've got a lot of just phenomenal store managers, and they do incredible work every day. But I would tell you, they can't have the same impact in the community by saying, I'm the franchise owner of this one. It's just a different message. And we have a lot of our store managers that are active with 40 Winks. They're serving on the chamber. They're part of it. And we encourage that as much as we possibly can. But I would just tell you, it's different when you're the owner of that location or locations and you're part of the community. So I think it's a tremendous part that franchisees need to leverage, because it's a tremendous impact.
Yeah, I look at it as, this is kind of marketing I like to do, giving back first. I think the previous, say, 30 years with all this technology that's come into our lives, very much it's become, a results and advanced world. And that's just good marketing because of the change in the way we kind of give people, like with software or even Google, using Google search, right? A tool like that's, it's free, just use it. Well, it's not really free in a sense, but that's the way consumers think today. And so I think having programs that make it natural to just represent the brand in the way that you talk about those values, it kind of make buying furniture secondary. It's like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure. Let me just find the right piece of furniture, but I absolutely love doing business with someone that thinks about kids first. Right. So, it's such a profound way to just be the right business owner. And you're right. As a business owner, you do have the opportunity to lead in your community in that way. Yeah. So it is a valuable business tool. Go ahead.
Yeah. And it starts within our mission. We really look to try to improve people's lives and strengthen our communities. And with some of the products like mattresses, there's a direct connection when we ask the right questions and get people sleeping on the right mattress. When you're sleeping better, your life is better. That's physically, emotionally, I'd say spiritually. There's a lot of things that just come better with that. But as we talk about strengthening our communities, there's jobs and there's great product values, but we want to have a piece that we're active when we're trying to make the community better. And one of our big ideas is we believe that a community, a city, town is going to be better if there's a Slumberland there. So that's part of what really gets us excited about every time we open up a new location. It's just not another location because we're able to sell more. We're making another community better.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of wisdom in what you were sharing earlier about giving back and, really doing it with intention and the right purpose. And 10%, that's a big chunk to commit. Right. And, but that's powerful. And I think that just helps everybody in the brand. So yep. I'm glad that you lead that way. So anyway, let's talk about growth though. Let's talk about, we just talked about something very important. So then the question is, how do you approach, launching the next location, and how can you kind of keep an eye on this quality, this integrity that we talked about, and this mission? Like, in other words, what you just said, you want the franchise owner to have the same exact feeling, like, man, I can't wait to make that impact in my community. So how do you scale your business, plan for growth, but also keep that balanced out? And I think, Josh, maybe you could take it, and then Kenny, you could follow up.
Yeah, happy to, Rob. I think it's a great question, and I think that when you have core values that really are core to your business, right, and you really do, everyone in the organization believes that we need to lead with honesty and integrity, that we need to have love, dignity, and respect, that we need to work with excellence, right? These things that are just part of our core values, they end up becoming less of a hindrance to growth and sort of the roadmap for growth, right? Where you can lean on your core values and say, this is who we want to be. This is who we are. And so as we look to say, hey, we want to engage in adding additional franchisees, we want to make sure that we have the right people coming into our system. We look at that and we say, can we be honest with them and say, here's where the opportunity is? Can we look at our supply chains and our marketing opportunities and say, hey, would we be able to work with excellence if we added these 7 additional markets, right, in these additional states, right? Those, if you use the values in those ways to say, we'll always check ourselves with those things to make sure that we are able to execute with love, dignity, and respect in all of our conversations with our franchisees, both the ones that want to come on, but the ones that are in our system now, right? Every time you make a change, every time you add a location, it's a big deal for the entire system, and to be aware of that, and to be aware of the impact, and to make sure that every change that we make and everyone that we bring on and is furthering the mission, and not just sort of making us a little bit like, all right, can we do this one? Can we do this one? How do we just keep grow? It's like, no, we've got the values, and then we say, hey, you know what? Maybe in order to bring on the next 20 stores, we need to do X, Y, Z in order to do it excellent, right? And so then that creates the roadmap to be able to do that. So it ends up being less of a hindrance and more of a map, right? A guidepost to how to do that.
Yeah, so you have a lot of intention, like with the way you expand. You kind of know where the options are, what the best options are. It may take you a while to get there, but you already have the intention. How do you? So for anyone just zeroing in and listening, thinking about the idea of getting involved with the furniture industry, how, first of all, what are sort of the criteria? What would you be looking for if someone is listening? Who is that other than the values part, right, and the alignment part? What are you looking for otherwise for a franchisee, and how do you train them and bring them in either way when they come into the system?
Yeah, absolutely. The one of the things we've seen with a lot of the franchisees that are in our system, as Kenny mentioned, we have a number of people that have been around with us from the very beginning, right? And so we've got a lot of history. But we also have a number of people that have come into the system a lot of different ways, and you don't have to have a furniture background, right? You don't have to have a real estate background with a big, 40,000 square foot building, right? You can come into this really just, again, the values being important, but also the willingness and the desire to a lot of our stores are owner operated, right? So really get into the business and actually manage the sales teams and engage with the customers and understand the operations. And there are a lot of complexities sometimes to owning a bigger retail store, right? Especially you sell it today and you deliver it tomorrow, and there's all of those things. Of course, we help with all of that, right? As the franchisor, we provide lots of really good systems, but someone coming into the system that's just really hungry to learn, right? Really hungry to engage and and of course then engage with their community. Those become the roadmaps, right? There's obviously plenty of opportunity for people to invest in the system and find a manager to do all of that for them, right? But where we found really good success is to have people who are just really hungry to learn, hungry to engage and utilize the systems.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were answering that, just personally, and I'm not shopping as much as I have in the past, for my homes and different lifestyles I've lived through. But I just remember raising my kids, and one of our favorite things to do was to go to furniture stores and just check things out. I like the environment. Of most of them if they're well done, But I could see what you mean by wanting to be a part of that and wanting to be more involved with your employees and your customers and interacting with the community, right? It's a place for the community to.
No, that's exactly. It's such a fun space to be, right? Because you walk into a furniture store and again, it's not a fast food, right? Where everything's just quick, right? Like, let me get this, let me do that. It's a space to think about your home, right? Where are you going to relax in your home? How are you going to sleep better at night, right? These are all very aspirational things. And so whether you're looking for something to take home today or you're looking for something that's going to sit, you're going to pass down from generations, right, in your dining table, or there's just a lot of aspiration, a lot of desire that people have when they walk into furniture stores, and to be a part of that energy, right, and to be a part of engaging with customers and helping them improve their lives, right, I think is it becomes a big part of it. Sort of just naturally dovetails into everything else that we do.
Yeah.
Right. Go ahead. One of the things that we really try to think about with the products that we offer is to think as big as possible. So as Josh mentioned, the dining table, it's not just a place where you eat. It's a place where some of the most important family discussions take place. It's where homework's getting done. It's where, bills are paid. That may not be the most fun part, but, it's a big part of the family's home. And the sectional isn't just a place to sit. It's like where families come together and they watch movies and sporting events. And when we start thinking about it in those terms, it's a real privilege to be able to interact with people and then literally come into their homes. We do the delivery, and to be able to set that up and to see the impact. And it's one of the things that gets me excited every day coming in.
Yeah. It's everyday life. It's such a big impact. Like you said, these things you use every single day of your life, some of them, and they become integral to your lifestyle. So it's very cool. So I want to get into innovation a little bit, because I want to underscore a little bit the undertaking that you guys, you make it look easy, right? So we just talked about someone coming in, they really have a background in furniture, running a furniture operation. So you've got the roadmap to make that happen if they've got the right, call it DNA to do it. But there's got to be a lot that goes into that operationally, right? You've got a lot of smart people and you guys have processes. So tell me a little bit about technology, a little bit about innovation, how you've used it through these years and how you plan to use it. Now, we know there's a lot of new technology in front of us every day. We hear about AI a lot. Don't know if you guys, how you're thinking about that right now, but at the end of the day, thoughts on innovation. Do you have some specific examples that you could share that have really made not only it better for your franchisees, but better for your clients alike and customers?
I'll go first, Josh. We can tag team this one. Coming out of I'll start in one key, which is just a big challenge for the industry, is supply chain. Coming out of the pandemic, which blew up literally everybody's supply chain, we took the opportunity to completely redo it. And today have built multiple tools within there to make sure that we've got the product flowing that we need. Now, I wouldn't say we're perfect, but we're really leaning into it. And we're really at the front edge as we've kind of built out not only the process for it, but the data that we need, where we're going to be able to start leveraging some of the AI tools to do it even better. And I think over the last couple of years, we certainly haven't had an eye towards our data to be able to get us ready for all the automation that's coming. And I think the back end work is some of the least sexy part of it. But if you don't have really pristine data, the AI tools just don't work. Like, it's going to just give you not only inaccurate, but potentially damaging. So it has been a long roadmap over the last 2-3 years trying to get us to that point. And we're really on the front end where we're mentioned supply chain, where we're going to be able to start leveraging some of those things. Josh has been involved in a couple of those efforts too. So you want to share, Josh?
Yeah, I'd even just to dovetail. Of course, supply chain has been a huge one, right? But one of the things we don't make any of our own furniture, right? We partner with people like Lazy Boy, right? People like Sealy, and so those connections within those supplier networks and those not only on the supply chain side, but also on the marketing side, right? And on the e-commerce side, and on all of these different areas where the building of the connections between the different teams and the different systems to make sure it feels seamless, right? As you said, that kind of everything is taken care of, and using that data right across systems to make sure that we can make not only really good decisions within individual departments, but to really make it feel like everything is working together. And that, again, when you don't own every part of the system, right, it really means that you have to be responsible and really and take seriously what your role is in partnerships, right, with people that you bring into your system and that work alongside you, and make sure that you're open and honest about what you need out of that system and how we need different partners to work together, right, in order to bring these things together. And I think that's one thing that we've been able to manage really well, and we're continuing to be on that journey. But ultimately having that vision towards what do we want this to look like, so that way, to your point, Rob, things will continually change, right? AI is going to change a lot of things. Technology is going to change. But if you've got the structure in place, then you just are able to sort of implement them going forward. And we really feel like we've got a good system that we're building to be able to do that into the future.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I wouldn't necessarily say it this way, but I would say that COVID was probably a good thing in the sense that you responded in a way that then gave you a chance to clean up, do some house cleaning, and actually get ready for 2022 when ChatGPT was released. And I was someone involved in AI prior to that, but I'll tell you that made it very clear very early on what companies would have to do. And it's what you said. If you don't have the data structured in a certain way, you can't make it accessible and usable and get the impact that you would want to get for anything that is real internal, right? So you got to start to restructure and look at your data and your integrations and your partners, and now you're taking the lead. You're being the thought leader, and that's what we need. I mean, for those that are going to really transform at the pace where it makes sense, they're the ones that are doing what you're doing, right? Yeah. The ones that are already doing it. So it's perfect positioning for you guys, because you'll be able to pivot as things start to present, opportunities present themselves and make sense for your people. But what if you guys were to sum it up right now, just on that one point of, say, AI, is there something that you had on your mind? Let's just take franchisee onboarding and training and support. Any thoughts there on how you might use AI? Or maybe it's in marketing on the e-commerce site. Any thoughts there on how you might leverage some things, or are you, and have you been testing things, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's a lot of really fun tools emerging around sort of training and onboarding and different capabilities that we've been looking at, sort of leveraging partnerships, right, to take advantage of, we've got lots of training content, of course, right, and lots of onboarding documents and lots of videos and everything across the sun, right, to help people get up to speed with what we do, both on the corporate side and on the franchise side. And again, some of these AI tools that are coming out to be able to just get the question in the moment, right, to say, hey, help me see. I need to learn this real quick thing about this particular sofa or this particular process, or how far out my deliveries go, or any of those sorts of things, right? To be able to, chat GPT style, right? Be able to go in, but look at the content. And again, to Kenny's point, it takes building that content over a long time and making it consistent, which has been on our radar, such that we can, again, there's still work to do, but to be able to leverage those tools and put them in the hands of our franchisees. So that way they can, again, there's plenty that we'll do here at HQ to leverage those, but at the store level and at the owner level, to be able to leverage those and to learn the systems really well, and ultimately learn their data really well, right? There's a lot, and we are continually evaluating those for sure.
It's nonstop, right?
Yeah.
But believe me, you want to focus on the things that you could see that, okay, this can make an impact. It makes the franchisee's life better. It makes the consumers better, whatever. Can you see it? Because otherwise it's a lot of noise and a lot of change, right? But you're hitting all the right things. And it's about that data being structured in a certain way, right? It can reference it, but if you don't have great training data, then it wouldn't be that good.
Right.
Give you the wrong answers to the outdated question, right? Or whatever.
And
but anyways.
One of the things we're wrestling with too, and it kind of goes back to our values, Rob, the experience we create with our customers is really important to us. We use Net Promoter Score. Today we're maintained over 85. I think we're one of the best in retail, and that's for our home delivery or for our salespeople, our contact center. But as you think about AI, there's a lot of extensions now into the contact center, and we're trying to understand that. We're playing around with it. We're doing some testing with it. But it would be one of those, if we took a step backwards from our customer experience of what they're getting, that it's not as good. I don't doubt that it's going to get there at some point, but those are the things you need to say, what's important to you as a company. And for some people, the customer experience, the way we've defined it, may not be as important. It may be more transactional, and that's okay. There's lots of ways to do business, but we know the things that's really important to us, and we just need to make sure that it's in alignment with that.
Yeah, I bring up sometimes. There's a quote. Jeff Bezos has a quote. I'm not going to get it all right, but it's just basically someone asked him, all this high tech stuff, and Jeff, what do you think in 10 years will be the big thing or an important thing? And he's like, well, I don't know what it'll be like in 10 years, but I know what won't change in 10 years. And that is our customers want their packages faster, or they, what I mean? And that's, if we can keep doing that, then whatever it takes to do that. So it's not so much the tool, it's the impact.
That's right.
And I think relationships are still, like, no matter what happens in the coming decades, relationships will still be there. In fact, I hope the idea of all this is that AI can remove some of the burdensome administration and the grind work of things so that you can literally spend more time out on the floor and literally talking about things like you said, like, hey, let's talk about kitchen tables and kind of get in the mindset of how are you going to use it? And I know you guys probably do that anyway, but I mean, there would be no shortage of time if you could remove some of the other things. And to me, again, it's all about relationships. So that's what I like to see. Yeah. Well, great. All right. Well, let me, as we kind of approach the end of the show, I want to make sure we have plenty of time to talk about how you guys are leading your brand, right? As you said, it makes a big impact. It's making an impact in all the owners' lives, all the employees, all the people in the communities, all the children, which is pretty cool. Tell me a little bit about leadership. What do you think, if you could, and I'll start with you, Kenny, is there anything you can point to in your career as being CEO that you've learned, right? Any one thing that you look back on and say, this is tried and true for me, and I always follow this?
Well, that's a big one, Rob. So I'll
could be a lot of them. Maybe pick one good one.
Could be a lot of them. Yeah. I think one of the things that's really important is to understand who you are first, that self-awareness piece, and to lead through that to the best of your abilities. I think it's really hard to do some things that don't resonate with yourself personally. So I had a unique challenge coming up following my dad, who was maybe one of the best people persons ever. He was really, really strong. And we have really a lot of similarities, but there's differences too. So one of the things I had to figure out certainly was my voice in terms of how we do that. But also I knew I needed to be aligned with the values that were set. Like, I didn't have the ability to just change those because that wasn't. So I had a decision to say, am I aligned with that? But now I need to figure out what's the best way for me to articulate those. And I think that's one of the things that I would encourage any leader, that it needs to be from a place that's genuine, with conviction, and that you can lean into it. And as I said before, there's lots of ways to be successful. There's lots of different values that you can identify, but they need to be yours. And then you need to figure out building out your team and having the right people part of it, because I would be the first to say it is not all about me. I can't be everywhere. I can't do everything, but I need to set the stage for the leaders like Josh to be able to do the work in their areas.
Yeah. And I got to say, I haven't known you long, but I've noticed in our interactions, you're very much that way as a leader, and the way you interact with Josh and the way you guys do things together. It's very much about empowering others around you. And I think the best leaders in the world are surrounded by really smart people, and they kind of like look at themselves like, man, I'm lucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you must, like, I've heard from a lot of CEOs of brands, like, and Josh, you probably feel the same way. It's like the franchisees you get to work with, right? You bring some of these people in, and some of these business, you learn from them too, right? And what a powerful way to keep growing, right? I mean, Josh, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you get to work, you have the opportunity to work with franchisees, with independent business owners. There's just a wealth of knowledge there, right? And expertise. And to Kenny's point, right? When you know who you are, right, and you get a bunch of business owners that also know who they are, right? They bring lots of different perspectives to the table. And the beautiful part about being a franchisor is you get to, sort of leverage all of that knowledge and work together and figure out how to grow the brand together. And that's amazing. And I would say one of the biggest things that I've learned through that is to always assume whenever you're communicating with people and you're having conversations, you're not always going to agree with everyone all the time, right? That's the part about leadership is it's not always, just straight cut and dry. It's not a straight path all the time, right? But when you're having any conversation, to both listen actively, of course, right? But also it's always healthier to assume best intentions, right? Assume that when you're having conversations with people that they're coming at it from a place of goodness, right? That they're really trying to achieve well, right? To do the best by themselves, their family, their community, right? Their business. And again, you may not always agree, but when you assume best intentions, some of those roadblocks that sort of sit in the way of future growth and future conversations, they sort of move out of the way, right? Because then you can come at it from the same place. And I think, again, you can't lead anybody if there's no one following, right? And so you have to make sure that you're understanding that everyone that you're talking, whether you're leading directly or you're just helping to kind of bring everyone together, that you're just assuming that we're all coming from the same spot, and then it's much easier to move forward.
I love that. Thank you. Because I do think, obviously you have to work through conversations, but I think we all experience this where, you have these conversations with folks and there's this sort of wall, there's this sort of, blockage of, we're animosity or what have you. And it's like, no, don't approach it that way. Approach it from, we all want the same end goal, which is to be successful, help the customer, be better at what we do. So at the end of the day, get there, focus there. And that would make any conversation a bit easier to get through. Just approaching. Yeah.
Exactly. And when you have things like core values and missions that are just, they're set in stone and it's what you do, right? It makes it easier for everyone to just come back to the source, right? Because we all know where we started, right? And so then it makes it easier to just assume that we're coming from the same spot, even if we don't agree in the moment. Right?
I love it. So I wanted to just ask one quick question before we do wrap things up officially, but I want to make sure, because I know this type of business is a big operation. You said earlier that, it could be different types of people, right? It's not necessarily someone who has previous experience in retail or in furniture industry. Is there something that you want to make sure that anybody's out there thinking or wondering, is this a fit for me? Is there anything you want to remove or just make sure there's no preconceived notions about how they could get into it? Also being very transparent at the same time. Is there anything that you find when you have your initial conversations that is usually not known by the other party and you kind of clear it up real quick? But is there anything you want to make sure that you clarify about the opportunity and so that no one has any preconceived notions like, oh, I could never do that. I don't want to have these limitations when they shouldn't be there. So what would you say to that?
Yeah, I would say, we've had lots of opportunities to have we go to franchise shows and different things, right? And people walk up to the booth and say, owning a furniture store, like that seems like a really big endeavor, right? And it's true, right? There's some complexity to that, but one of the beauties is you're not opening a furniture store alone, right? That's why you become part of a franchise, right? And so while there are complexities about, how do you get the furniture and how do you get it into your customer's home and how do you know what to sell and what customers, what's in inside this couch cushion, right? And all of those things. Frankly, you don't need to come with any of that knowledge, right? You just need to come, be willing to work with customers, be willing to engage in your community. We take care of getting the furniture to your store, right? We take care of sourcing and supplying and providing marketing and doing all of these things. Like we handle it, right? And so while you need to operate your business, right, you really just need to be willing to be engaged and willing to learn. But it's not necessary that you know how to go source product from overseas, right? Or figure out, like none of those things. That like we take care of all of it. And so really that's where I said people can come from all different backgrounds, and as long as you're willing to engage and willing to learn, right? Again, it's a big square foot, right? But it's really just the process of taking care of people and taking care of your own people and taking care of customers in the right way. And we do really try to help with most everything else.
I'm just thinking about myself. So I do the podcast as you're on it right now. So, if you said to yourself, I'm going to start a podcast or be in a podcasting business, it's obviously one of the things is you don't mind talking and meeting people, right?
Yep.
But I feel like that very same essence would work in a furniture store environment. It's really that sort of connection, right? More than the other obvious things like, oh no, I don't know what to do to source the furniture kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, we're gonna talk to you right after this, Rob, about opening one in Colorado.
Yeah, we need one. We need some competition. So yeah, that would be good. Well, that's tremendous. I wanted to kind of just make sure that the audience knew how to get a hold of you guys or the brand. But Kenny, before I let you go, is there? I like to ask leaders like you this question: is there anyone other than your dad, and maybe it's your dad, but who is one of your mentors, or is there anyone in franchising? And is there a lesson that they kind of left with you that you kind of hit you, and you kind of still think about it today sometimes?
Yeah, there's been a lot of people over the years, Rob. It'd be hard not to point to my dad because, obviously from the beginning was there watching it. And I would tell you, I've got 3 brothers and a sister. 2 are involved in the business, 2 are not. There was never any pressure that you had to be part of it. And all of us are wired really differently. But I would just tell you, for me, growing up in it and watching it, I knew at a young age this is what I wanted to do. So I've been doing it for a long time now, and it's been awesome. I think one of the things that Ken just did a great job with is, creating that environment to say, be here if you want, but also then the opportunities. So over the years, I got exposed to all sorts of things, probably earlier than maybe I even should have, given what my title was. So between whether it was people on the marketing side or research side, people that were on the, I'll say the business improvement and the operations or process side, I did get exposed to a lot. And, I'd be the first to say there were tons of people that gave me a lot of gracious leeway as I was coming up.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So what would be the best way if someone is now that we've tipped them over the fence, right? What's the best way to get a hold of you guys if someone would be interested in learning more?
I'm happy to talk to anybody, but Josh can give on our website. There's an easy way on slumberland.com. There's a franchising piece to it too, that if there's anything there, but feel free to give them my mobile number, Rob, when we're done. I love talking to people. You got it. Well, and then Slumberland is just slumberland.com, right? I think.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'd say check us out, right? Slumberland.com. It just as the retail site, you can see what we're all about. You can see what we offer and all of those things. And then, of course, there is a franchising page right on the homepage, right in the upper left-hand corner. You can get to franchising opportunities, and all of my contact info is right on that page as well.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. And I always encourage folks to reach out and learn more because, again, that first level of consulting that all of you guys are generous enough to give, for anyone that says, I think this might be for me. It's always great to talk to people like Josh. So take advantage of that. It can help you understand the big picture of his industry and others in the franchise world. So it's been great having you guys on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, enjoyed it a lot. Thanks, Rob.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Rob.
I just want to thank the audience as well and encourage you to share the episode if you found value. And bye for now.